Welcome and thank you for joining us in celebrating the launch of the California State University Center to Close the Opportunity Gap. The event today is being recorded and we will provide access to this recording through our website. Live closed captioning is available to members of our audience. You can just enable the feature in your meeting controls. Also, we've enabled the Q&A features, so please use this to post any questions that you may have throughout the webinar. We may not have time to answer your questions today, but we will address them via social media. In the last several decades, California has initiated sweeping reforms in an attempt to channel more resources to high-need students and to better level the educational playing field. These and other efforts have to some extent improved academic outcomes, but poor students of color, especially Black, Latinx, Native American, Pacific Islander, and some Asian American students still lag behind white and wealthier students. Through the support from the California legislature, today we launched the CSU Center to Close the Opportunity Gap, a multi-campus initiative with regional networks that will collaboratively learn, work, and leverage opportunities across sectors to support systemic change and advance K-12 students' academic success. Established virtually at Cal State Long Beach and in partnership with San Diego State University, Cal State Fullerton, and San Jose State University, the center will focus on identifying and refining proven strategies to eliminate equity gaps at all levels of education. So welcome to the virtual launch of the CSU Center to Close the Opportunity Gap. I'm Dr. Corinne Martinez, faculty member in the College of Education at Cal State Long Beach, and along with my colleague, Dr. Kara Richards-Tudor, I serve as co-director of the CCOG. We're happy to have you joining us virtually, especially our colleagues from schools, districts, and county offices of education across the state. Today, we begin to lay the groundwork and create the structure necessary to develop and sustain the CSU CCOG. The ultimate goal of the center is to serve as a vehicle to explore new models, share best practices from exemplary schools and districts, and convene practitioners and stakeholders from across the state. With the largest educator preparation program in the state, the CSU and the CCOG will provide an important platform to create a sense of urgency about how we might close equity and opportunity gaps. Essential to our work is strengthening the professional preparation of educators, teachers, education specialists, administrators, counselors, for schools serving high concentrations of Black, Latino, and economically disadvantaged students. I'm very proud today to introduce our first speaker, Assemblymember Patrick O'Donnell, representing the 70th District, which includes Long Beach, San Pedro, Signal Hill, and Catalina Island. A graduate of Cal State Long Beach, a classroom teacher, a community leader, Assemblymember O'Donnell is a dedicated advocate and supporter of public schools. Assemblymember O'Donnell is chair of the Assembly Education Committee, and as chair, he has expanded investments for preschools and K-12 schools, mandated more slots for California residents at the UC and CSU systems, and led the charge to create the CSU Center to Close the Opportunity Gap. We are grateful to Assemblymember O'Donnell for securing the state funding to launch the CSU CCOG. Please join me in virtually welcoming Assemblymember Patrick O'Donnell.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And listen, I'm happy to be here today. I'm also happy to have pushed for the establishment of this center. And I think I'll talk a little bit about why this is important to me, but more importantly, why it's important to the future of our kids, and the future of our state, and ultimately even our economy. So this is a very important venture that I think is going to be, have a lot of positive outcomes for students, teachers, and really the success of our state. A little bit about me, again, as you mentioned, I am the Assembly member of the 70th Assembly District, Long Beach, Signal Hill, San Pedro, Catalina Island. I sit as chair of the Assembly Education Committee, have done so for about 6 years now. My experience is that of a classroom teacher, teaching middle and high school. I'm actually on leave, so I'm still a teacher. I go back in the fall a bit, although we're online, so I'm taking a little bit of a pass on that right now. But that I teach in the district, Paramount, just up the road from Long Beach. Actually, Paramount Unified actually covers a bit of Long Beach. And it is a place of great kids, some with great challenges for sure. And it is a place where we have a high number of English learners. We have a high number of low-income students, foster kids, kids with some challenges, and we need to identify best how to meet the challenges those students walk into with our walk into our classrooms with. And this is this is our opportunity to help kids. This is our opportunity to help our state. So I see myself as a problem solver, and this state has a problem. We have a persistent achievement gap with certain groups of students. We know that. We know that. And that's pretty much been established. So I don't think we need to restate that. But where I come from, really, as a classroom teacher and a policymaker, kind of from both sides, is that we need to bridge that gap. We need to close that achievement gap. And as a policymaker at the state level, I've seen many studies that identify that we have an achievement gap in the state of California. And I think it's been, again, pretty much established that we have that achievement gap. What I want to do now is I want to talk about solutions. How do we fix that achievement gap? And that's what this center is all about. It's about housing the best practices associated with closing that achievement gap, something that's very important to me. And why is it important? It's important for people who are teaching in our classrooms today, school districts, teachers, et cetera. It's also important for teacher credentialing candidates. And that's why Long Beach State is such a great place, because they have a high number of students who enter and seek a teaching credential. So the information they garner from across the research spectrum can be infused into their teacher education programs. And then also, as we mentioned, other CSU campuses. And the fact of the matter is that the CSU is the workhorse, but as the chancellor likes to say, also the show horse of our California higher education system. They are the one that is, the CSU system is the one that really produces our future teachers. So it makes it a natural that this be the place where we go to house this center. As is mentioned, I'm an alum there, so it's an important place to me. Did my bachelor's and my master's there. You can see me on just about every day walking my dog through there. So it's a place I'm very familiar with. But last year, what I did, knowing that I wanted to push the establishment of such a center, was I introduced AB Assembly Bill 1173 to establish this center. Ultimately, that was folded into the budget. We got the money in the budget and the associated language to establish the center. So I'm very proud that it's at Long Beach State. Thank you for hosting this center. And of course, again, thank you for hosting today. But really, this, from my perspective, will be not to establish that there's a problem, not to restudy the fact that there's a problem, but to study and again, house the research associated with addressing the problem. So let's problem solve together through this center. Let's work to serve California's children through this center, because we know we have work to do, and it is urgent work. Some people have said, well, we need to wait for more money. No, we're not waiting for more money. Okay, we're going to tackle this problem today. We're going to take this on. So again, I just want to thank the Dean of the School of Education, Ms. Pavery, and everyone at CSU Long Beach. I know the president couldn't be here today, but I want to thank the president for sure. And I want to thank your legislative advocacy team for all they did to help establish this program. You have a good team up in Sacramento, and my communication with the chancellor and his team was great throughout this process. And I just want to thank you for being advocates for this program, but more importantly, for California's children. This is something that's very important to me professionally, not so much politically, but I also think it's a great piece of policy for California. And, you know, we're the place where it all happens. So this information that we're going to house here, that we're taking off the shelf and putting into one place, is going to be used ultimately across the nation as well. I'm very confident of that. So again, thank you, and let's get to work.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Thank you so much for your support, and we look forward to your continued support as we move through the various, the work and the progress with the center and the work that we expect to do in K-12 schools. Next, it's my honor to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Lauren Blanchard. Dr. Blanchard is the Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs for the California State University. As many of you may know, the CSU is the largest and most diverse four-year public education system in the nation. Dr. Blanchard develops and oversees educational policy for the 23 campus system. He guides and supports campus administrators on curricula, program design, and student affairs. And he leads the CSU Graduation Initiative 2025, the university's ambitious effort to increase graduation rates for all CSU students while eliminating equity gaps. Dr. Blanchard, the screen is yours.
Well, good morning. And I certainly want to take the opportunity to thank everyone who's joining us here today for this most exciting event. On behalf of the California State University, I'm thrilled to support the vision and goals of this university-wide center. So is our current Chancellor, Chancellor White, as well as our Chancellor-select Castro, because we realize that this center will focus on identifying and refining proven strategies to eliminate equity gaps at all levels of education. That's K through 16. And Assemblymember O'Donnell, our sincere appreciation we extend to you for your diligent efforts to help us to secure a one-time state allocation of $3 million to really get this center off the ground, a most important center. And as we all just heard, Assemblymember O'Donnell is a longtime supporter of the CSU and a true advocate for all of our students. And so we're truly grateful for your influence, Assemblymember O'Donnell, and your unwavering support in Sacramento. I would also like to extend my sincere congratulations to the talented team from Cal State Long Beach who developed such a strong proposal to host this center on its respective campus. I want to say thank you to the visionary design, the center that will operate in partnership with San Diego State University, with Cal State Fullerton, and San Jose State University, extending its benefit throughout the state of California. So we understand wholeheartedly that from preschool to career, California students belong to all of us. For the first time ever, this center will work to address and close equity gaps from our students' very first school years. In collaboration with our K through 12 partners, the Center for Closing Opportunity Gaps, CCOG, will accomplish three things. One, to strengthen professional preparation of educators, education specialists, and administrators. Two, conduct original research. And three, and this is what we heard Assemblymember O'Donnell reference, to develop and disseminate tools and resources to implement evidence-based practices to ensure that student success will occur across all of our segments. In other words, that we really are going to work to eliminate the opportunity and achievement gaps that we see happening in the state of California for our students, starting from the pre-kindergarten level all the way throughout their baccalaureate degree programs. So this invaluable work is in direct support of what we are doing with Graduation Initiative 2025 for the California State University system-wide. This effort is our flagship effort to ensure that all students have the opportunity to earn the lifelong benefits of a high-quality CSU degree. The CSU's plan to increase graduation rates and eliminate equity gaps is both ambitious and it's complex, and it relies heavily on the support, collaboration, and talents of our K through 12 educators. Educator preparation at all levels really helps to ensure that our PK through 12 students are college and career ready, equipped with the skills, knowledge, and confidence needed to thrive on campus, complete their degrees, and excel in the workforce, regardless of whatever background they come from. And that more importantly, recognizing that the playing field will be completely level for all of these students to be able to thrive. Together, we have already accomplished quite a bit at the California State University with respect to our work around Graduation Initiative 2025. I'm proud to be able to share with the broader community here that despite the pandemic, the California State University enrolled its largest ever student body for the fall 2020 term. And this past May, nearly 110,000 CSU students earned a bachelor's degree and joined the ranks of the CSU's 3.8 million alumni. This record number of diverse and talented graduates are now positioned to lift their families and their communities and to power California as well as our nation. Our four-year graduation rate for first-time students system-wide has increased to 31%, which is the highest rate in the history of the California State University. This represents undeniable and steady progress toward our 2025 goal of a 40% graduation rate. Our 6-year graduation rate for first-time students is 62%, which exceeds the national average for all public 4-year universities. For transfer students, the 2-year graduation rate is 44%, again, the highest ever for the CSU, and a significant improvement since the beginning of our graduation 2025 efforts. And the 4-year transfer student graduation rate is 79%, another all-time high. But the grappling part, that which we heard Assembly Member O'Donnell reference, is that although our completion rates for students from all walks of life really continue to improve, the opportunity gaps remain stubborn. And it will take sustained, intentional, and innovative action to achieve our goals of eliminating all gaps by the year 2025. The graduation equity gap for Pell recipient students narrowed by 1 percentage point this year, and the gap now stands at 9.2 percentage points. And lastly, the gap for students who identify as African American, Native American, or Latinx also decreased slightly, and it's down now to 10.5 percentage points. I trust that over time, by identifying and sharing proven strategies to close opportunity gaps among educators statewide, that this center will have a transformational impact, not only in our schools throughout California, but also for the CSU and for the generations of students and families that we will continue to serve. And as a result of our collective and focused efforts, as Chancellor White has remarked, and I quote, "The CSU will be known by who we graduate and not for who we exclude." I look forward to great discoveries and accomplishments as the work of this center progresses. It's my absolute pleasure to be here. It's my absolute pleasure to congratulate you on the opening of this most important statewide center. And I certainly want to again thank everyone for joining us here today. Back to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Blanchard. We're grateful for the support from the Chancellor's Office and from Dr. Marquita Greno-Shire, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Education and Public School Programs, who has also been very supportive regarding the project and allowing us the opportunity to move this work forward. As was mentioned earlier, our scheduled speaker, Dr. Jane Connolly, unfortunately could not be here with us today. And we thank Dr. Shireen Pavri for joining us. Dr. Pavri is Dean of the College of Education and Professor of Special Education at Cal State Long Beach. She has also served as Associate Dean for Graduate Studies and Research and coordinated the Education Specialist Credential Programs and the Master of Science Program in Special Education at CSULB. Under her leadership, the College of Education is committed to developing and maintaining the CCOG. And now here is Dean Pavri.
Thank you so much, Corrine, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of Cal State Long Beach and the College of Education, I would like to add my warm welcome and thank you to all of our distinguished guests for joining us today. With the university's founding in 1949, teacher preparation was amongst the first 3 areas of study at Cal State Long Beach. Over the past 50 plus years, Cal State Long Beach has prepared multiple generations of educators, and the college now has an alumni base of over 45,000 teachers, administrators, counselors, and leaders. We are proud to work closely with so many dedicated community, education, and philanthropic partners in preparing educators. Today, consistent with our university's mission and that of the CSU, the college prepares educators to promote equity and excellence in diverse urban education settings. As a campus, Cal State Long Beach has strived to foster a welcoming and inclusive environment that inspires and supports the success of every member of our diverse student body. And the campus's efforts have been met with success. Graduation rates for all economic and ethnic groups have improved, and the equity gaps, while they still exist, are closing. Ultimately, our goal, like that of the California State University as a whole, is to eliminate disparities in persistence and graduation rates. That is why the campus, under President Connolly's leadership, has been implementing ambitious, action oriented initiatives such as Beach 2030, the Campus Climate Survey, and the reconstituted President's Commission on Equity and Change that will bring about the kind of structural change that makes us a stronger, more inclusive, more responsive, and more compassionate university. We are indeed honored and excited to be selected as the host site for the CSU Center to close the opportunity gap. We see the statewide center as an essential part of creating a more equitable future for California's learners. We're thrilled to be working alongside our sister CSUs with partners at San Diego State, Cal State Fullerton, and San Jose State University to eliminate equity and opportunity gaps for young people across the state. Our deep thanks to Assistant Vice Chancellor for Educator Preparation and Public School Programs, Dr. Marquita Grenold-Shire, and her team at the Chancellor's Office for all of their support, guidance, and efforts in launching this new center. I'm also extremely grateful to our champions and today's speakers, California State Assembly Member Patrick O'Donnell, and Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs in the CSU, Dr. Lauren Blanchard. And of course, our exceptionally talented and dedicated faculty leads, Dr. Corinne Martinez, Chair of the Department of Liberal Studies and Associate Professor in Teacher Education, and Dr. Kara Richards Tutor, Professor of Special Education. My thanks also to a visionary educational leader who has inspired so many of us working to make a difference in urban schools, Dr. Joe Johnson, our keynote speaker from the National Center for Urban School Transformation at San Diego State. Last but not least, I'd like to recognize and thank all of our wonderful advisory board members. Dr. Brent Ducker from San Jose State, Dr. Fernando Rodriguez Valls from Cal State Fullerton, Dr. Douglas Fisher from San Diego State, Tim Allen, Executive Director of the Carlston Family Foundation, Barbara Murchison, Director of Educator Excellence and Equity at the California Department of Education, Saret Kaminsky, Policy Director of Educational Services at the California County Superintendent's Educational Services Association, SECESA, Dr. Mary Sandy, Executive Director of the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, Tom Armelino, Executive Director of the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence, Dr. Anne-Marie Francois, Executive Director of Center X at UCLA, Dr. Eileen Strauss, Vice President of the California State Board of Education. And to everyone who joined us today, thank you for your participation and for your commitment to the CSU Center to close the opportunity gap. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Pavry. We're very grateful for your support as well. I am very excited and honored to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Joseph Johnson. Dr. Johnson is the founding executive director at the National Center for Urban School Transformation, NCUST, at San Diego State University. While serving at NCUST, he was also a professor of educational leadership at San Diego State University, then dean of the College of Education, and finally, the university's interim provost and senior vice president. In July 2019, he retired from the university administration to focus exclusively on NCUST. Early in his career, he served as a teacher in Southeast San Diego, a school and district administrator in New Mexico, and a State Department official in both Texas and Ohio, a researcher at the University of Texas, and a senior executive service director at the U.S. Department of Education, where he led the nation's largest federal elementary and secondary education programs. He has received Outstanding Educator Awards in both New Mexico and Texas, and has published multiple articles, book chapters, and reports. Dr. Johnson's book, Teaching Practices from America's Best Urban Schools, A Guide for School and Classroom Leaders, was published in its second edition in 2019. We are so grateful that Dr. Johnson is speaking today at our center launch today. And Dr. Johnson, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this event. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of today's activities. I'm going to ask Mr. Arnold to move us to the next slide. So I want to begin by congratulating the California State University on the launch of the Center to Close the Opportunity Gap. As well, I'm especially pleased to congratulate the talented faculty, staff, and administrators at CSU Long Beach, CSU Fullerton, San Diego State University, and San Jose State University for being selected to lead this important endeavor. Also, I wish to offer sincere thanks to State Assembly member Patrick O'Donnell for his visionary leadership in sponsoring the legislation that supported the establishment of this center. The center is an acknowledgement of our shared responsibility to ensure that the American dream remains alive and healthy for all children in California. I'm talking about the simple American dream that suggests that every child in this state will have access to a quality education that ensures them the capacity to keep learning and keep growing in this complex, ever-changing technological environment. The American dream that every child will acquire the academic skills necessary to succeed in a 21st century career that enables them to earn a living wage and affords them the opportunity to own a home and raise a family, even in California. The American dream that every child will develop knowledge and respect of both themselves and others, all others, so they can contribute to a strong and healthy community in their neighborhoods, in their nation, and in the world. Next slide. The Center to Close the Opportunity Gap must respond in a manner that acknowledges that this American dream is on a ventilator. The American dream is at peril for millions of children throughout our state and throughout our nation. Next slide. We cannot pretend that access to the American dream is alive and well when it's far too easy to predict how well any student will perform on almost any academic variable at any level: preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, community college, four-year university, graduate school. One only needs to know 5 variables: race, ethnicity, family income, language background, gender, and zip code to make a fairly accurate prediction of how students will perform. For millions of students in our state, their sense of despair is real as they experience educational systems that are not likely to lead them to achieve the successes they long for in life. Among those factors that predict how well students will perform we must acknowledge that race and ethnicity is extremely powerful in predicting how well students perform in our state and in our nation. Next slide. The Center to Close the Opportunity Gap must become a tool to help our state establish anti-racist, anti-classist, anti-sexist systems. As Californians, it is not enough for us to be proud of our efforts to avoid being racist. We need to strive to model to the nation what it means to be anti-racist. The Center to Close the Opportunity Gap needs to help us understand that the predictability of student outcomes is not simply a product of overt acts of malicious intent. Next slide. We must recognize that our systems can take multiple routes toward racist impact and racist outcomes for our citizens. Clearly, there can be racist impact when individuals and systems act with malicious intent, supported by fear, greed, insecurity, and zero-sum thinking, grounded in the belief that there must be educational winners and losers. But also, the center must help us recognize that racist outcomes can result when otherwise neutral intents get distorted by implicit biases. Next slide. Most importantly, however, the center must help us learn how the benevolent intents of thousands of educators can be so easily frustrated when we allow our systems to continue patterns of behavior that have been in place for years. Often we follow routines not because they're in the best interest of the students we serve, but because we have come to equate those routines as normal, typical, or even good. So often I ask educators about why their systems are engaging patterns of behavior that are clearly leading to poor outcomes for Black and Brown and Native children. And they tell me what amounts to TWADI, TTWWADI. Oh, that's the way we've always done it. Next slide. At all levels of the system, preschool through graduate school, rules, practices, routines, and structures related to a whole host of issues frequently go unquestioned. We act as if the TWADIs are somehow sacred. However, they often result in racist impact. So often, students of color perceive that these rules, practices, routines, and structures were not designed to support their success. At one of the successful schools my center studied, I had the opportunity to interview an African-American young man who was a senior. When he was a freshman at a different school in the same district, his GPA was 1.2. I asked him to explain the differences between his former high school and his current school. He explained, well, at my other school, it was like I was being asked to play a game I wasn't supposed to win. Things seemed to be set up so kids like me would fail. Everybody knew I was going to fail, and I failed a lot. Here at this school, it's the opposite. It's like the adults got together and thought about how can we set things up so these kids will succeed. Even as we convene today, we're building new rules, practices, and routines into our systems in response to COVID-19. I recognize, appreciate, and admire the diligent efforts of tens of thousands of teachers, administrators, and support personnel who've exerted tremendous effort to respond to the health emergency in our midst. But at the same time, we must recognize that our emergency response is not our best response. It's wonderful that so many schools throughout our state are uncovering the potential of e-learning. However, we must stop and ask ourselves, how can our systems adopt rules, practices, routines, and structures that ensure that all students and all demographic groups of students will experience the maximum benefit from distance learning approaches? Next slide. The truth is that many of the Tawadis that we have become so comfortable with were not designed to ensure every child's success. In actuality, many of those rules, practices, and routines were designed to sort students. Traditionally, American systems of education have been sorting machines, designed to separate those who are most likely to succeed from those least likely to succeed. The ones most likely to succeed get sorted into programs designed to prepare them for higher education and high-wage careers. The ones determined least likely to succeed get sorted into programs designed to lead them to work in factories, the military, agriculture, or low-wage service jobs. Next slide. The Beeb and millions of children like the Beeb were educated in systems that were designed to ensure the Beeb's success. The Center for Closing Opportunity Gaps needs to help all of us recognize that the Beeb is a dwindling minority in California. We cannot survive economically, politically, or socially if our education system is unresponsive to the needs of a large and growing majority of our state. We need systems of education, preschool through graduate school, that recognize the brilliance of all our children in California. We need systems explicitly designed to tap into and actualize the potential of every child we have the privilege to educate. Next slide. The Center to Close Opportunity Gaps must keep us grounded in the fact that there are schools right here in California that are proving that demographics need not limit destiny. There are schools in California where neither race, ethnicity, language background, family income, gender, nor zip code have any power in predicting student success. Next slide. Each of these schools is an existence proof. Because they exist, they prove to us that it can be done. James Baldwin wrote, "Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by others doing it. But first, the folks who think we can't have systems of education in California that lead Latinx children, African-American children, Native children to impressive academic success They need to know that there are schools down the road from them where the success is real. We won't interrupt the status quo if the successes achieved by California educators remain a secret. Next slide. As well, the Center to Close Opportunity Gaps must help us dig deep and build our understanding of the factors that contribute to equity and excellence in outstanding educational environments. For instance, in our work at the National Center for Urban School Transformation, we've learned that yes, all demographic groups of students need access to challenging academic curricula. Students won't learn chemistry if they're never taught chemistry. And access means more than just scheduling students into a chemistry class. It means thinking through what are the supports students will need in order for them to have a high likelihood of success. We need to think through the supports that will maximize the likelihood that Black and Brown and low-income students will emerge from the chemistry class realizing that they have outstanding capacity to understand that chemistry and use chemistry to advance their progress toward personal and professional goals. Next slide. As well, at NCUST, we've learned that students are not likely to benefit from rigorous curricula unless they have instruction that's likely to engage them and lead them to a deep understanding of concepts. We know that students learn and understand when we give them experiences that create bridges from their backgrounds and prior knowledge to the important concepts and skills we want them to learn. Next slide. And perhaps most importantly, we've learned that students are not likely to learn at all unless we create learning environments where they personally feel valued and capable. We see Black students excel where we find Black students who feel like they belong at school. We see Latinx students thrive where we find Latinx students who have been led to believe they have tremendous capacity to excel. We see all students achieve at high levels when they know beyond a doubt that their teachers, administrators, and support personnel care and care deeply about their personal and academic success. As well, we have learned that in schools that create a positive transformational culture for all groups of students, leaders create a positive transformational culture for all adults at the school. Next slide. In our 15 years at NCUST, we believe we have learned a lot about outstanding schools, but there's so much more work to be done, so much more to learn. Nothing inspires me more than walking into a low-income community and seeing children who recognize their power to shape their lives and the lives of their community. At the same time, nothing frustrates me more than realizing that there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of students in the same city, in the same school district, with similar societal challenges where nobody seems to recognize the tremendous human potential that's being wasted, where nobody has thought through what needs to happen to change learning environments in ways that will change the trajectories of the lives of the students served. I am so excited at the launch of the Center to Close Opportunity Gaps. My center is anxious to do whatever we can to support your efforts. I'm especially excited about your capacity to position a mirror so that we, as the California State University, have the opportunity to continuously improve our efforts to advance equity and excellence in California. We have the opportunity to consider how we can increase the likelihood that all our CSU students learn, graduate, and become empowered to pursue their personal and professional dreams. As well, we have the opportunity to learn how we can improve our preparation of educators from preschool to graduate school in ways that strengthen systems so that demographic factors have no power to limit the success of students in our state. Congratulations to the Center to Close Opportunity Gaps. We look forward to becoming a better, stronger, more socially just state because of your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. We really appreciate your words today. I think we're all inspired even more to get out and do this work and change these trajectories for our most marginalized students. You reminded us also today that there are so many schools that are changing the trajectories of these students every single day in the work that they do. And we need to look to these schools to help us understand how to close these opportunity and equity gaps. We are very well situated at the CSU to do this work as we impact so many educators and school leaders. At this time, I would like to recognize our CSU partners in the CCOG. As other speakers have noted, Cal State Long Beach is the lead institution, and the two faculty leads that are myself and then Dr. Corrine Martinez. We also have San Diego State University as a partner, and Dr. Doug Fisher is the faculty lead there. At Cal State University Fullerton, we have two faculty leads, Dr. Antoinette Linton and Dr. Fernando Rodriguez Valls. And last but not least, our faculty leads at San Jose State University, Dr. Lori Capizzi and Dr. Brent Duckor, sorry. Brent. Our campus teams have already begun collaborating to launch the important work of the center. You can learn more about the faculty leads and the campus teams on our website, which just launched yesterday, went live yesterday. So I'm going to show you right now our, well, I think I am. Hold on. I knew this would happen. Let me try one more time. Here we go. Oops. You don't want to see all this. Here is our website. We are very, very grateful to the folks at the Chancellor's office, the team that we've been working with to get this website ready, led by Barb Sperling and Jason Stanton. They worked very quickly to get this website up for us, and so we're very grateful for that. We'd like to just let you know that you can right now sign up for our emails on the website, and so that you can be alerted to events, to upcoming event information, or get our newsletter and any resource updates that we have. We'd also like to draw your attention on this carousel that's coming up. We will be having an educator summit in July, and so you can save that date. It's going to be July 31st, and we'll have registration information coming very soon. Sorry, did I misstate that? Let me see. Yeah, so you can get registration information on that very quickly. Also, we have our social media up and running, and we would love for you to follow us on social media. And you can share and retweet our events, our work, and we'd love to see you all on social media as well. We will also be offering webinars coming up in the new year. So starting in January 2021, we'll be offering webinars regularly, probably every other month. And you can get that information again from our website. And then also if you sign up for our emails, you'll be getting that information from us directly. As Dr. Martinez noted earlier, I noticed that we were getting some questions again on the webinar, and we only have about 8 minutes left today, so we're not going to have time to be able to answer those questions. But if you follow us on social media, then we'll be able to respond to those questions and put them on social media for you. In closing today, I would like to take the opportunity to first thank all of our speakers who are here. Dr. Joe Johnson, Dr. Lauren Blanchard, Dr. Shireen Pavri. And I want to extend a deep appreciation to Assemblymember O'Donnell for being an advocate for this very, very important work. As all of our speakers have stated, this work is urgent. We have to work to close these equity gaps. And this work largely entails educator preparation, including teachers, educational specialists, counselors, and other school leaders who need to be the ones who are changing these systems. And our work at the CSU focuses on that, and we are well positioned to do this work. I also want to send a big thank you to our CED events team, I'm sorry, I'm giving you a doctorship, Cody. I'm just so used to saying that. Cody Arnold and Amber Smith, as well as our CCOG administrative coordinator, Stephanie Kakuta, for making this event possible today. We would not be able to do that without them, and we're deeply grateful for this. The CCOG team is eager to do this important work to make equity a reality in California K-12 schools and beyond. We are so excited that we had over 150 participants here on this webinar today. And although we would have loved to have all of you at Cal State Long Beach for this special launch, having us together like this virtually allows people from across the state to be here, and also you could be here in your pajamas, but across the state to be here with us today, which is amazing. We wouldn't have had that if we did this virtually. So in some ways we can be grateful for the pandemic and in times like this, because we were able to have a lot more of you on here than would have been able to be there in person. So thank you all again so much for attending today. And again, to all of our speakers for making today possible as well. Thank you all.